And by the way, this is the end of season 2.
This is the finale.
What?
I'm calling the end of season 2.
It's not the end of season.
I've been picked up by another show. I have
Because we're gonna cancel it after what we said. Yeah. And we're back.
Here we are for another episode of Boast About It, on location at the Mass Beth Steel Court. I'm with Timmy Brownell, US #1 squash player. High five on that.
High five.
Nice.
Thanks for having me here, James.
That's great.
Awesome to have do a pod live.
Yeah.
And
You're a little sweaty because you just came off court from this tournament with your buddy Spencer.
Yeah, I'm a lot of it sweaty, honestly. I was doing a lot of running out there. But some would say I did throw to bagel one game and lost the next. That's an impressive feat.
That is true.
Standard Brownell Lovejoy 3-2. I honestly don't know when we played when it hasn't gone 3-2. And we'll continue the tradition long after. But
Is that right? You almost always go.
almost always, yeah. And it's almost, I always feel like he's doing more running when I'm more tired. So it doesn't really add up, but we love to play. And this court, as you see, is pretty special. It's really real. It's open air. You don't get to have that experience very often. So we love coming out here. And it was a fun match, honestly. Like, I was dying, but I had a lot of fun. So
Yeah. But let's rewind a little bit back to the beginning. Now, you are from a squash family, is what I understand, right? So your mother's a squash coach. Your father also is a squash player.
yeah, so he was a hockey player, believe it or not, back in the day. Both of them played 3 sports in college. But my mom, she learned squash in college, believe it or not. She just fell in love with the game. She decided to make it a profession. My dad is a school teacher at Belmont Hill School, and he's a math teacher, and the teachers also coach the sports. So when the squash legend there, George Seeley, who started the squash program, was retiring, they needed someone to coach squash. And my dad was like, well, I know squash. So he stepped into it and has been coaching squash for 20 plus years. You know?
So you just grew up around the sport.
Grew up around the sport, but I also grew up playing a lot of other sports. I think that's important nowadays, is that you see a lot of specialization across all sports. I think it's important that kids play a lot of sports, and it's healthier for them, and also makes sure that when they take a sport more seriously, they truly love it, and they're not just kind of squirreling into it. So I don't want to see us lose that. I'm happy with where it's at. At least schools like the one my dad teaches, that you got to play 3 sports. And it's
What were your other sports?
I played soccer and baseball.
If you combine soccer, lots of running, with baseball, lots of hitting, you get squash.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. It was great. Soccer, we ran hard, and squash season was obviously very tough. So it was awesome. In baseball, you have some sunflower seeds, some bubble gum, hang out in the sun, hit some balls. It was a good change of pace.
Yeah. At what point did you think I'm going to become a pro?
That's an interesting one, because I never was really that far focused in the future. A lot of people would always ask about, when did you know where you're going to college? When did you know when you're going pro? I honestly was pretty busy trying to just survive at school. Honestly, there was a lot going on with sports and classwork.
And then in the moment.
Well, I was more like out of necessity to try to, you got to do well, you got to pass your classes. So I was never thinking like I want to be a pro player when I was 15. Those guys were my heroes, though. I will say, like I always looked up to Nick Matthew, Rami Ashur, Miguel. Those guys, like Miguel's my screensaver on my computer.
Oh, really?
That's for 15 years.
He is amazing. He and Ali Farag did an exhibition match at Open Squash that is still one of my favorite things I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, these guys think about it. They call it the golden era, and to me, it was when I was growing up watching those guys. And I had that photo on my screensaver is Miguel going like this after he beat Gaultier at the TFC. I always looked up to those guys. They were larger than life to me. And I remember some of my earliest experiences in squash. I was at like the Pilates camps at Williams, where Nick Matthew, Lee Beachell, Peter Barker, Alistair Walker, and Dave Pearson were all the coaches. So you could not assemble a crew like that nowadays. But those guys would all just go to Williamstown, Mass, and just train together in the summers and coach the camps. And I was about 10, 11 years old. And I remember like, they were larger than life to me. And I always, maybe in the back of my head was always like, these guys are the coolest in the world. So maybe there was some subconscious, like I want to be like them. But I was never explicitly being like, I'm training to become a pro.
Going through the junior ranks, you were sort of ranked 1 or 2, and
mostly at a later age. When I was younger, I started getting a little bit better when I was 12, 13, because I was on the school team and I was playing with guys who were 17, 18. They were just kicking my butt, and I was always one of the smallest guys in the grade. So when I started to get bigger, I'd already tried to figure out ways to win. So when I got bigger, I got a lot better. I was like 15, 16. So by the time I was 15, 16, I was probably good enough to be one of the best players. So I actually skipped the U17s. Most people don't know that. I skipped my second year U17 to try to make the US team. So it was always a big deal for me. Like, again, talking about heroes, like people I looked up to, they were wearing Team USA on their shirt. And I always wanted to do that. So when I got better, that was always one of my goals.
Who were the US players you were looking up to?
At the time, I mean, I loved Gilly Lane was one of my heroes. Julian Ellingsworth, Chris Gordon, Chris Hansen in particular, where he was in New Hampshire a lot, went to Dartmouth. when I was growing up, like 15, 16, I was one of the only players there in the summertime because we lived there in the summer. And he would just beat the tar out of me every day. I would play Hanson in the morning, get chopped, and then I would go play golf with my dad, and then we watch the Red Sox at night. And we would do that like every day all summer. It was like the best summers ever. So Chris Hansen in particular is probably one of my squash heroes, and those guys all were Team USA, winning medals, playing the Pan Am Games, and yeah, I looked up to them a lot.
You said you skipped the under 17 second year to go
Yes.
for Team USA, and you made it.
And I made it just. It all came down to the last moments, like nationals, and we had a playoff. And the national team that year was kind of a weird cast of characters. And I remember that first World Juniors I played at, which was in Namibia. It was a completely unforgettable experience because we had
Wow, and Namibia just by itself must have been unfair.
It was insane. I was 16, and the coaches of the team were Gilly Lane and Adam Hamill, those are, if anyone's a squash fan, they know who those guys are. And those a formative experience. Like I remember that so crisply because it was an important time for me. You're exposed to the best players in the world for the first time, and they're all wearing their jerseys. Although funny story is, I actually played this guy Omar Atmas in the first round. He came onto our match wearing a cotton T-shirt. That was just like a random T-shirt. I won the first game, and he came out in the Egypt shirt. And he beat me like 11-1 the second game. But yeah, that was 2014, I believe.
You went from there, and you decided to go to college. You want to tell us the story about how you got in there? Were you recruited? Did you apply? What was the process there?
I mean, yeah, most of the best juniors are recruited by colleges. For me, again, like I wasn't really forward looking, so I wasn't. When I was a junior in high school, most kids are already deciding where they're going to school, and I'm trying to get through calculus class. I'm trying to survive math, and I always was. I would go to the Harvard matches, and I would watch Alec Farrick. I'd watch all these guys play. I'm a huge squash nut. I'd love to watch these guys, but I was never thinking, oh, I want to play there. If anything, I had much more connection to Dartmouth. That's where I grew up. I was born in New Hampshire. My mom was a coach there. I knew all the guys in the team. My senior fall, in particular, that's when I did official visits. We spend a few days at the schools, and you get to know the guys on the team. And for me, that Harvard visit was my best by far, where I got along really well with the guys at the time who were going to be juniors when I was a freshman. So I knew they would be the leaders of the team. They were kind of cool guys.
Yeah.
And I was not cool. And they were like, hey, come along with us. And that's how it was. They look out for me and they look out for anyone without asking for anything. I'm really happy I made that decision to go there. I was actually the last person in our grade to decide where to go to school.
Well, it's not bad to be the last person in your grade to decide where to go to school, and then you go to Harvard.
It's a great school.
I mean,
anyone out there, it's a great school, honestly. Yeah.
Were you playing professionally when you were at Harvard as well?
I played a few tournaments, but we were pretty busy, honestly. There was a lot going on.
I know, people did both. I talked to Victor, who was
playing
a bit, and then I talked to Gina, who was like, yeah, no, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, so I was probably in between, where I played a couple events, but honestly, in college, you're doing classes, you're busy, we're not taking care of ourselves the same way we could. So for me, I had a lot of injuries where like my feet were hurting, my legs, my knees. I never felt worse physically than I did in college, believe it or not. Probably played 2 or 3 events. So I might play the SL Green as well. I played the Nationals.
Oh, when was the first time you won the U.S. Nationals?
As a pro.
As a pro, yeah.
Yeah, when we were younger, it was always Andrew. Andrew Douglas was the one who, as a high schooler, college player.
To me, I didn't know your name. Andrew Douglas was the name that I knew. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you showed up in one of the finals, and then you won it. I'm like, who's this guy?
Yeah, out of nowhere. Yeah. Andrew was obviously a stud. Like in college, he played #1 for Penn for 4 years.
Yeah. That's
pretty unheard of. I'll never forget this. So the first time, Dougie was outside the top 30 in the juniors in the U.S. for most of his junior career. This is why everyone's like, "Oh, my 12-year-old's not winning everything." Like, relax. So Dougie's outside the top 30. He started to break into JCTs maybe when he was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
And by the U19s, I remember I was the #1 seed in a JCT, and I was #1 in the country. Yeah, big one. I played Dougie first in the UPenn JCT. Oh, and I remember I was down 2-love for like 5 seconds. I came back, I actually won, and everyone's like, "What's wrong? You feeling all right? Like you played like terribly." I'm like, "That guy was nasty." I remember I got hurt playing basketball at school. Didn't play the rest of the season. Dougie won every tournament for the rest of the season, and I was like, "Take that, everybody!" And then the rest was history. But it goes to show you don't have to be the best U15 player or U13 player to really. Who's the best 18-year-old or the best 20-year-old? It's completely different. So he's somebody that always was working hard, but he really didn't take that jump until he was 17. And that's fine.
So then you graduated from college and you decided, right away, I'm going to go pro.
like I was not always a forward thinker.
Yeah.
But I did an internship. I was actually working for my uncle, where I was just kind of like, I'll try a desk job. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, it's just not, you know, I love squash. I love moving. I love being with people. And for me, I kind of had to do that to know that immediately out of college, it wasn't. And after I had done that internship, I was like, I want to give this a go. Unfortunately, it was COVID the year that I graduated. We just got in nationals, the team nationals, and then everything kind of went nuts.
Yeah.
So that first like 6 months, I was at home in Boston. It wasn't in Philly yet. Specter Center wasn't built yet, and it was a nightmare. Honestly, there were some satellites and some 5Ks, 10Ks in Texas because they had like no rules. But that's all I had for the first 6 to 10 months. And
When did the tour open up?
the tour was open, but it was like regionalized. You can only play against people in the United States. If you were in, you know, Africa, you can only play against people in Africa and Europe. So there were only American tournaments that I could play in.
And when did it regionalize?
It was probably by the next season. I wasn't improving that much because I didn't have, you know, the strength coaches that we have now. I didn't have the extra set of eyes, the training partners, and so I was really, I was better than I was in college, but I was basically flat. I was maybe a little fitter.
So now it's a year in. You're now going pro. It's opening up, and you start to climb up the rankings because you're now in the 30s. So
Yeah.
I think you broke 30 for a moment and
Yep.
then fell back out again.
Yep.
Talk to us about that journey and where you are now.
During that COVID time, the Specter Center was being built. I knew it was being built.
Yeah.
And Adam Hamill at the time was the director of national teams, and that's the guy who coached me for the junior national team way back when. And he was like, "When this is built, you get your butt down here, and we're going to build something here. His vision was to create a Team USA that's a revolving door at the Specter Center, where you've got people from every year that are coming into the national team program. Everyone's training the same spot. You got nutrition, strength coach, training coaches. We all get better together." But I was like, I'm all in. Let's go. So I moved to Philly, and I started playing at the Specter Center when it wasn't open yet. It was just me and Hamill. And then shortly after I was there, we hired Bridget, who was our strength coach, and that changed everything for me because I was always dealing with injuries and I'm not being able to play multiple matches in a row. Bridget changed everything from a training perspective and being able to train your muscles properly, be able to withstand matches like the top guys do. They play 5 matches in a row and they're okay.
Yeah.
Whereas I couldn't play maybe 2 matches.
What were the things that she had you do to your body?
I mean, it might sound silly, but like I'd never touched a barbell in my life. I never touched a barbell. Simple as that. Like I wasn't putting the muscles into the stressors that they needed.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, well, 4 times a week, you got to start
lifting weights.
She had the program. Everybody.
And you just told me the regular Olympic weights, deadlift.
Well, we're not doing the like she didn't want us to do Olympic lifting because
Yeah.
she doesn't want to hurt her shoulders.
Yeah.
But yeah, simple stuff: squats, deadlifts, bench press.
Yeah.
Like get some more strength on you. Like, I'm still really skinny, but believe it or not, like I was about 146, 148 to Philly, and you know, year and a half later, I was like 160, and I'm still really lean.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's just 10 pounds of muscle. It's a big deal. All of a sudden, I can get some balls. I can volley more shots. I can move up. You can recover. It sounds so simple, but it's not. Like most people don't do that, and they don't eat enough to keep the muscle on. As a squash player, everyone's like, "Oh, just be skinny." You're not going to make it from there.
And it's those improvements that people like me started seeing you in the
Exactly. So everyone's like, "Where'd it come from?" It's like I was surrounded by a really good group of people, and we started having all these other players as well at the center. We had Spencer Lovejoy there, who was in my year. We had Todd Harity, Shahjahan Khan, Andrew Douglas. You had all those guys kind of cracking the top 50 in the world, which had never happened for America.
That's right.
That's
right. We
so-
rarely get one in.
And that was because, building a team at the Specter Center, it was working.
What are your goals now? Where do you think you can get to?
Where do I can get to? Level-wise, a lot better. Results-wise, there's always noise. In a year, I could really be 15th in the world, or I could be 30th in the world, depending on some close results. But level-wise, I know what I need to work on, and I'm still improving, and I like where we're at. When you're competing, it's really hard to go play in Egypt versus the USA versus, I don't know, Hong Kong. All these things I can improve on. And I think it's been really cool to watch the top guys in the world do it up close. Like, how does Shabagi woman? How does Farag? What are they eating? How early are they getting to the courts? Are they on the shuttle with me like an hour before? Are they getting there 2 hours before? Are they getting there 10 minutes before? Like, go on.
What's the answer?
There's no right answer. That's the answer. For me, I know I've got a lot of holes in my game. And as I keep making them smaller, my trajectory has always just been up level-wise. And the results just kind of follow. Whereas if I chase like, oh, I want to be top 20 or I want to be top 15, like if you just look at the rankings, like from people 12 to 20, I've probably beaten every single one. But that doesn't mean I belong in the top 15. Ultimately, everyone's really close. And so when people are close and it's 9-all, stuff's going to happen. You catch the nick, you catch a C, you get a call. Those things should cancel out over time. But in small samples, big ups and downs can happen. So we're going to see what happens results-wise, but I know my level's going up. And so that's exciting for me.
So let's switch to the Olympics. The Olympics is a big deal. You're the #1 U.S. male.
I'm sure that the U.S. will get a spot, at least for the men and for the women.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure, because everyone was thinking it would be a 32 draw, I'm not sure how they're going to fill those spots.
Yeah.
Let's say if they do it like a sport, like I think it's like badminton, if they do top 5 in the world, auto-qualify, and then they're going to start filling it from other nations.
Yeah.
Or are they going to do winners of the regional games? Like if you win the Pan Am Games, you auto-qualify. If you win the Asian Games, you auto-qualify. We kind of have to wait and see. I'm sure we'll have a player. Who knows who's going to be there? But my plan is to stay healthy and keep improving. So I know I'm going to be pushing the level.
Yeah.
But like if we have a guy that comes out and he's not live, I'm going to be the biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
So let's see.
One of the things that you told me that was fascinating and I didn't appreciate is in order for squash to be an Olympic sport, the U.S. governing body, U.S. Squash, has to have athletes on the board. And so over the course of the last, I don't know, year, 18 months, the U.S. Squash has added athletes to the board of U.S. Squash, and you're one of them.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a good.
How's that experience been?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I think it's a good thing to have more communication between athletes and some of the higher ups. And I think a lot of people's issues are solved by just being around. If you think about what makes a team great, it's by being visible. It's by showing up. It's by knowing. If you understand someone else, you can get behind it when they make a bad decision or a good decision. So I'm a big fan of including athletes on the board, and I think it's a great rule that the USWC has, that I think it's 1/3 of the board has to be athletes across all sports. So I think it's just a good idea for on the athlete side, you get to have more exposure to like why are these decisions being made or what's going on. You get more of a sense of the sport, and from the other side, they get to be more plugged into like what's going on the ground. You know, a lot of board members are really important people. They might not be playing squash every day or be plugged in as much as the ecosystem like a player is. Sure. So I think it's just good from both sides to get more information about what's going on, and the team will perform better.
Now, the other thing that you told me while we were off camera, you had a what I think is a great idea for reffing. You want to explain that?
But why doesn't the player just ask for the decision that they want, and the referee can say yes or no? So the player, if they ask for a let, the referee can say yes let or no let, and if they ask for a stroke, they can say stroke or no stroke, which would be a no let. And I could go deep into this if we want, but it cleans up the game. The players are the ones now basically refereeing. The referees can't make as many errors because they're just saying yes or no. They don't have to kind of be a hero saying no let, or stroke. And there were two main situations that I was targeting with this rule. One, let's say 2 top players are playing drives on the right side, and one guy hits it kind of 4 floorboards out, kind of squibs out a little bit. And the other guy kind of goes, and he looks back at the ref, and he does that because he knows 8 out of 10 times it's going to be a let. But 2 out of 10 times, the referee might be having a bad day. He might say stroke. So if you're Diego Elias and Mustafa Sal, it's really freaking hard to win a point. If you get that situation, you should stop it every time because you're winning on average 0.2 points. Plus asking for that, praying for a stroke. Does the crowd like it when you stop at this really dumb moment?
No.
No. Is that good for squash? No. It's not continuous play. It's a really dumb occurrence, but it happens all the time. And I understand why they would stop. They're winning on average. Let's consider the other alternative with the new system. They stop there and they ask for a stroke. 8 out of 10 times now, they're getting no let.
In your thing, when they ask for a stroke and they get a no, they lose the point.
So now
in the current system, they just get a no let and it's a do.
They're winning EV. They're winning expected value. Whereas now, that situation, 8 out of 10 is no let, 2 out of 10 they win the point. It's a losing situation now. So now they'll either just ask for a let or they will play the ball because it's no longer winning for them to ask for a stroke. The second situation that I hate that happens all the way at the top level is the front corners. Let's say someone plays a drop and then the other person plays another drop. The player just kind of smashes into them and they go, and they look to the ref and they pray because they're hoping for a stroke, but it might be no let. Who the heck knows what the call is going to be? Now, you better be darn sure if you want to stroke this. So if you're running into the player, most of the time now, let's say it's 10-9 in the 5th, and it goes drop and drop, and you smash into them. You don't want to risk a no let. So you're just going to be like, I just want to let. And the referee now knows you're not looking for that stroke. So they're going to be way more likely. The ball was tight. We're not really sure. You smashed into him. Let. And that's why I like it. The players know best because they're right there. And also I had someone tell me, they're like, well, what if the players just mess up and they really, they should ask for strokes. Now it's a skill issue. So if you got that player that's always asking for strokes, he's just going to lose the points and it's his fault. And then he'll have to change. And that's what I like. It's almost like the game cleaning itself up. But yeah, to spoil this, I think we're going to implement this in the National Squash League this year. So shout out to CEO Spencer Lovejoy taking the initiative, putting it for the NSL. And I've also floated it to Lee Drew, who's the head of WSO, I believe, for officiating. He told me he mentioned it to Lee Beecher. We'll see. But I would love to see it trialed at like the 5K level or maybe in the satellite level on tour. I probably told this to maybe 15 players on tour, all of whom are in the top 30. Everyone's loved it. Everybody. But I've had a few coaches / retired players who've been like, you're an idiot.
If someone's calling you an idiot, I'm proud to be standing next to you.
There you
Called
go.
an idiot right alongside you.
Idiots unite. Idiots unite.
It's a great segue, though, into the National Squash League. So you are a co-founder with Spencer, who's sitting right there, and we're going to interview him next. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about Spencer about the National Squash League. But talk to me about why you wanted to do that. You're on the board of US Squash, you're a pro squash player, you're looking to change the rules of squash, and it's not enough. You've decided to invent a new squash league.
Yeah.
So talk to us about why the hell that happened.
I care about the game so deeply. And so when I see certain things going on that I don't like say athletes and people that I think are phenomenal being put in a bad light because of their actions or whatever, it could be self-inflicted. We were like, we need to show this sport in the best way it can be shown. And I've gone to a few people who are higher up and been like, can we do this? Can we do that? I'll never forget one time at the US Open, I asked and I was like, can I just do the press conferences? I'll do it for free. I'll interview all the players with a phone. Don't even need a backdrop, but these clips will go so viral like every other sport. I might not watch a single NBA game all season, but I know exactly what's going on between all the players. I know the drama. Imagine all the drama that it exists in squash. It's just like every sport, but it's not being shown. And I'm like, can I just do the post games? Because we interview the players on the court and they're all sweaty and they're like, this guy played great. Thank you to the crowd. Thank you to my sponsors. And they leave. And it's like, no one cares that he said that. I want to see him after he showered or she showered. They're sitting there. They've had the time to collect their thoughts, both winner and loser. And they go nuts. And they're like, I got screwed. This player stinks. They tell you what they really think. And then that's how people create fan bases. Like, just like the NBA, this blueprint is there. And we're just not following it. And it was killing me. And I was like, I'll do it for free. And the person said no. And I wanted to, like, jump. I was like, this is, it hurt me to my core. And I remember thinking, like, no one's going to do anything. But, like, at the same time, I'm an ant. Like, eventually, push comes to shove, I'm going to do something. But again, I'm an ant, so you need a team of people to start something like this. And it all came together at a tournament. I was playing in a 10K, and I was randomly paired with this guy named Fernando Valdezan, who everyone probably knows now, commissioner of the NSL. I was just staying at his house, and there was a match there. It went the way that you see so many PSA matches go. These are early stages, small event, really contentious. A player hit one of our friends, Andrew Douglas, in the face. He had to go to the hospital and get stitches. The head sponsor for the tournament leaves with his son, says, this is ridiculous. What a terrible sport. And the sport's amazing. And it just grinds my gears. We're at home that night at dinner. Fernando's like, man, like, is there any way we can watch this game where it's not so stressful and the players aren't trying to murder each other for like a couple $100, And I was like, well, there's some leagues in other countries where it's a little bit more laid back, but there's nothing like that in the US. And he's like, well, why don't we do one? And I was like, yeah, why not? And then from then we started thinking about what would it look like? If you could make a squash match, what would it look like? And so we thought about, and I don't want to steal Spencer's thunder. He's going to come and tell you about it. But like, if you could make a match, what is a PSA match missing? What needs to go right for a match to be good? Both players have to be close in level. They got to be playing fairly. There has to be a crowd. You need to have good cameras. There's so much that has to go right for one of those PSA matches that you talk about all year. There's probably like one per tournament. There's like 8 per year. How can you get that every time? Like close to every time. And we started building from there. Build a system. And
well, I think that's a great intro to Spence. Any other NSL stories that you have to tell?
I'm trying to think. Guys, is this the Boast About It podcast?
Are you crashing? Are you crashing? Yeah, I am.
Oh, James, nice to meet you, man.
Spencer!
Somebody picked this guy to be a CEO.
I have no idea where I am.